Hello, my friends. Greetings from Bali. Today, I wanted to talk to you about one of the more difficult concepts to integrate when it comes to progressing in life, basically. And I want to approach this through two, let's say, parts. The very first one will be the fact that you can never ever make someone start working on themselves. The same way that you can't really make yourself start working on yourself unless there's actually a motivation behind it. Okay, that's part one. And the second part in that kind of same spectrum is the fact that the only real thing that we have to remember and that we have to learn to practice is to stay calm. Because the mind that finds the issues, and we know that it's the mind that finds the issues, whether it's a question of physical, mental, or emotional, because it's linked to the narrative in the mind, well, that same mind will also find the solution. It's not another one. It's that same mind. It's linked to the first part, actually. But it can only find the solution when it's settled, when it's calm and collected, which is the reason that the whole work in itself really just comes down to finding the control over your nervous system to stay calm. All right. So I'll go into that one in a couple of minutes. Coming back to the first part, what can seem really frustrating from your own perspective, sorry, it's not charging properly, and from your people's perspective around you, is when someone from the outside can see that you are not doing well, that you're sabotaging for yourself, that you're not living up into your full potential, or that maybe just simply they can tell that you are not in a good mood on a general kind of basis. And it's the same thing with yourself when you are experiencing all of the same things, not from the outside but from the inside. You can feel really frustrated because you don't really know how to deal with it, or you don't really see how anything that you do can take you out of that state, because what it is the filters that you have on the glasses that you're looking to out through the world towards. And so that would mean changing the perspective fully. And basically, when neuroscientists, or even in psychology, psychiatry, therapy, talks about changing the perspective for someone, which actually means when we change habits, or when we move into a new part of our lives with a new self, like the snake would lose its skin. What they say is that it can be done through two ways: either a high emotional shock that will switch everything to change, or by repetition, by repeating something over and over again until it becomes a part of your subconscious mind. Because naturally, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about this idea of changing your perspective, changing how you feel, changing what's happening in your life, and not really seeing how that can be possible or how you would be able to do that. What it comes down to is that you need to change your programming, if you want to use the very trendy words that they like to throw around these days in order to make psychology seem a little bit more scientific. You need to change your blueprint, if you will. I like that word better. And that is done, obviously, in the very old brain that you have stored since, we were fish in the sea. And that can only be done basically through these two ways, because that's how we rewrite the programming in the subconscious mind. So the first thing to remember is that there's no use trying to make someone change if they're not there yet, okay? And actually, it's not even any point in trying to do that to yourself, trying to tell yourself something that you're just not believing or just not doing. And it's a little bit the counterproductive thing with positive affirmations. I can only start from where I'm at, okay? There's no use trying to start from that point if I'm actually here, because I can't get there. And so all that I will see is that I'm just not there yet where the starting point is supposed to be. So the positive affirmations, for instance, that I keep repeating to myself that I don't really believe in, they don't actually have an impact. If there's no emotional attachment to those words, they will not actually be written into my subconscious mind. It's true. And actually, you can see this yourself. There's so many people who are trying with, law of attraction, positive affirmations and all of that, but they're not there yet. They're not at that point yet, which means that all this, what they're trying to do here, they're just repeating the same way you're trying to read your homework while you're watching your favorite show, sitcom. None of what you're reading is actually going in. It's the same thing, okay? You're not believing it. You're not there. You're not there. That's the thing, okay? So don't try to make someone be where they're not. And don't try to push yourself into something that you're not. So what do we do then? Well, the thing is, you can obviously get there where the starting point of the rest of the journey is. What you need to do is that you need to start with what is the function of your system. And the function of your system would be either then an emotional shock, something that's quite extreme, that can be good or bad, I suppose, and can be, unfortunately, not at all in your control. So, what can you choose to control that you can start with? Well, it's the repetition of something. Okay, so what this means is that by actually, and I know that I say this over and over again, but it kind of comes down to that all the time. You need to develop a habit that you have in your conscious mind, in your creative mind, put together, and then you commit to it every day, even if your subconscious mind sometimes says that it doesn't want to, because obviously it will want to go back into what it's used to. You will commit to it every day, and that is how you begin to make small changes. See, the changes will be very small to begin with, but that's okay. So one of the advantages of having, for instance, a journaling part of your routine, of your habit, of your behavior, is that you can start every morning by writing down the very subtle changes that you notice in your day-to-day life. Now, I myself have been discovering this during the past couple of months. I've been following with my teacher from the ashram who certified me a deepening course in Ayurveda. And I took as a new thing for me to bring into my journaling in the morning how I'm feeling with the Ayurvedic perspective every morning when I wake up, depending on what I was eating the night before, depending on the different routines that I had the night before, as in what time did I eat, when did I go to bed, what did I do before going to bed, what did I eat before and drink before I went to bed, things like that. And so that helped me to show already from the first day that there were subtle changes. They were so subtle that I almost thought that I made them up myself, but it doesn't actually really matter, because what happens when I do that is that it motivates me to continue the next day, because it's of course one of the main things to stay focused on something, to stay motivated on something, is to have short-term results in it. So if I can see from yesterday, this morning, when I'm writing in my journal, small changes in what I'm thinking or what I'm doing, then that will motivate me into doing the same next day. Okay, so coming into the second part now. What this will do to you, the fact of telling yourself, I'm going to start a routine of some kind, whatever it might be, it doesn't really matter. I'm not necessarily talking about yoga here, actually. But exercise is a really, really important part in changing your blueprint, because your blueprint is stored where? Well, of course, in what we sometimes call the subconscious mind, the physical body. So, exercise is an excellent way to start to work on it. You have to do this in order to take control over the craziness that goes on in your mind. So there's so many things that I have in my own personal experience gone through where my mind is very agitated and where I cannot find a solution to it, whether it's a question of romantic relationships, professional relationships, how I'm doing at work in itself, my physical well-being and appearance, and also just even what I eat, how I, everything actually in my life. There have been many moments when there's lots of agitation and frustration linked to the fact that I'm not finding a solution or that what I'm trying isn't actually working for me. And so naturally, when someone tells you, "Oh, meditate," it will be the furthest away from on the agenda for you, because that would seem maybe lazy, or it would seem counterproductive, or it would seem like, why on earth would that absolutely be a solution to things? Well, the thing is, as I was saying when I started out there, the mind that finds the problem is the same mind that finds the solution, but it can only find the solution when it's calm and collected. What does this mean? It means that when you actually manage to clear your thoughts a little bit, because you have calmed down your nervous system, then the answers comes. You see, you have the answers inside of you, because your organism is made to be self-sustainable. So your organism is made up to function healthily, okay? To not make you sick in the physical body, to not make you sick in the mental body, to not make you sick in the emotional body, okay? But this can only really happen if you can allow for it to do its job. And even though I know many of you out there are very similar to me with this, I need to produce, I need to show that I'm good enough, I need to maybe do a little bit more in order to know that I am good enough. I need to be social, even if maybe I don't feel like I want to be social today, because maybe those people who I say no to will not be there tomorrow. I think many of you recognize themselves in what I'm saying here. It's very typical. It's a very modern world. It's a very Western world. Okay? And what this means is that there's this constant aggravation of the nervous system, or of the fire inside of us, if you will, the agitation. And so what I need to do, because I actually have the solutions inside there in all those three parts, if you will. I think it's quite nice to talk about three parts. Physical, mental, and emotional. But it's all one. I have the answers inside, okay? And the answers inside can only come to the surface if I'm not completely imagining that there's a lion trying to eat me up. You get what I'm saying? If I'm calm and collected, okay? I will not put on weight. I will not lose weight. I will be able to sleep. I will be able to heal. I will be able to be there for other people if I can only allow for my system to control the way that I function. Now, that sounds all well. How on earth will I be able to get to that point? That's where we come back to the first point again. See, it all works together. I know that maybe I'm very agitated and nothing is working out for me, okay? But I know as well that there's only one way to get into the state that I want to be in, and that is by installing a routine that helps me to work with this on the three levels, and then making myself committing to it. You're committing to life, that's all. To do it every day. And then I will keep away for myself, like the journaling that I mentioned earlier on, for instance, to get the short-term results that will motivate me to keep going. It's really hard. It's an issue for myself. I'm still working on myself, obviously. It's an issue for people that I see. It's an issue for anyone. So we can only start from that point there. I hope that it made some sense what I've been saying now for the last 15 minutes. I'll be short. And this is without wanting to do some kind of upselling here, but it is really the reason that I created the online course that I came to call the Self-Image Project. Because we can call it self-image, or we can call it lots of different things, our programming, whatever it is, but it really comes down to that. These ideas that I have about myself that sabotage for myself from actually coming into the natural way of being. And so the self-image project is a way then to help someone who's just finding it really hard to make themselves go into that. And it's easy. It's not long. It's 3 parts, and they're built up on lessons of just a few minute videos with exercises that come along. And then you can be as much or as little in interaction with me as you wish during this. And finally, you have access as long as you wish. So I have students who've done it and then a year later came back to do it again. All right, so you find that on my website, and it's quite accessible. It's only $190 and access for life and access to me as well. So having lots of chats together. All right, so hopefully this brought some light into your own thoughts about why do you struggle and why you're frustrated about things and what you can do about it. And yeah, hope to speak to you soon again.